Hello and welcome to station number 4, analyzing a secondary source. So there's a couple of things that you'd want to do in order to make sure that you're analyzing your secondary source effectively. The first thing when I get a secondary source, what I do is I survey or I kind of skim over what I'm about to read so I can get an idea of what's going on. So I look at the title, so The Rise of Islam, so I know I'm going to be looking at Islam. And then I'm going to be looking at the subtitles that are within the text. So we got deserts, town, and trade routes. I wonder what that's going to be about. And then the Prophet Muhammad, and I see we got some other bolded text, Muhammad, Revelations, different things that we're going to kind of be looking at. We have Mecca. All right, so now that I kind of have an idea of what we're going to be looking at in the reading, I'm going to go back to the title and I'm going to more closely analyze what I'm about to read before I get started. So I'm kind of previewing the text. So, the rise of Islam. So, from this, I'm guessing that we're going to be learning about how Islam got started and how it became such a popular religion because, as we know, Islam is the second most practiced religion in the world. Now, when I'm looking here, I see the title, but then I also see kind of these helpful hints right here. So I always try to pay attention to this. So the main idea, so this is again reiterating the purpose of this text. So main idea, religious and ethical systems. Muhammad unified the Arab people both politically and through the religion of Islam. So I can expect in this reading to learn about Muhammad and how he was able to unify the Arab people politically and religiously, which is very interesting because you don't usually talk about those two things together. Then I see why it matters now. Again, like I said, as the world's fastest growing religion, it's important to be knowing about these things. And then lastly, terms and names. So these are some things that are going to pop up that I may or may not necessarily know. So sometimes when I'm reading, I kind of check off the ones that I've heard of before. Okay, I've heard of Allah, I've heard of Muhammad, I've heard of Islam. Not really sure what a Haraj is, and maybe a Hajj. So those are words that I'm really going to be looking for as I start reading. Then I always make sure that I'm reading kind of the introduction, or in this case, the setting the stage excerpt of the text. Then I'm going to start going down, and I'm going to look at the subtitles within the text. So this subtitle is the Prophet Muhammad. So one thing that I really like to do when I'm reading is to create the subtitle into a question, and after I'm done reading, I know I did a good job if I'm able to answer that question. So I'm going to change this red subtitle from the Prophet to Muhammad into a question. So I would say, who was the Prophet Muhammad and maybe what did he do? So when I'm done reading, I should be able to answer that question of who Muhammad was and what did he do. Now, you'll see in this text that we have some bolded and blue words. Those are going to be the vocab words that we looked up top. Those are words that you really want to make sure that you understand before you move on. So usually in the text they're going to give you a definition of what the word means. So Muhammad, and it gives you kind of a quick sentence about who Muhammad was. But if you're ever still confused, you have the access to Google or other sources in order to clarify those words. So once you've kind of analyzed the subtitle, you're going to start reading the text. And there's a couple of things you want to think about when you are reading the text is you want to kind of stop when you see things like this, see the map, think about how the map is related to what you're reading because the map is always important to what you're reading and kind of gives you a visual perception of what the text is talking about. In addition, you want to make sure that you're not rushing through the source because when you start rushing, you start missing things. So you want to be able to slow down, really read things, especially when there's all these vocab words, and reread if you need to, especially if you get to the question and you're not positive what the question is asking you. So if you're starting to answer questions that go with the reading and you're not sure what the question is talking about, go back and reread. And oftentimes, like I talked about before, the questions are going to have to do with the subtitle. So if you're getting a question about Muhammad, I wouldn't go all the way back to the beginning and start reading it again where it says deserts, towns, and trade routes. I would start reading where it says the Prophet Muhammad. So use those subtitles, use the vocab words, use the even smaller subtitles like Revelations over here to help you analyze the text and to help you get the most out of it. Good luck. If you have any other questions, ask your group members or come on over and ask me in station number 5. Good luck, guys.